Hello folks, and welcome to the paddock here at Yas Marina for F1 Live, your post-race show with F1 driver Jack Aitken and me, Sprinkles the Elf. Not really. 'Tis I, former child star and recovering chocoholic Will Buxton. Jack, you and I have seen some races in our time. We've seen so many memorable moments this year, and I think we can safely say today was not one of them.
Yeah, I think that was a tough one to stay awake to, but quite frankly. But you know, it is what it is, and it saw the end of a lot of fascinating eras in F1. So.
It does, and we've got at least 35 minutes to fill. So let's start it with the rundown of the order at the end of how many laps was it? A lot.
Too many.
Too many. Your race winner, Max Verstappen, P1. What a brilliant end to the season for Red Bull Racing. Second, Valtteri Bottas, and third, Lewis Hamilton. Behind them, and the positions that really matter today in terms of resolving the World Championship fight for third. Alex Albon came home fourth, a really good drive from him. Then Norris and Sainz, fifth and sixth. Critical results. Daniel Ricciardo, P7. Gasly, a monstering drive to eighth. Ocon, ninth. Stroll, disappointing in 10th. Daniel Ricciardo with the fastest lap of the race on the final lap. A bonus point for him. Outside of the points today in P11, he'll be disappointed after his best ever qualifying performance. Well, he felt it was his best ever qualifying performance anyway. Daniil Kvyat 11th, then Raikkonen and Leclerc, Vettel and Russell. Giovinazzi 16th, Latifi 17th, Magnussen 18th, then Fittipaldi, Sergio Perez, quite incredibly, retiring from the race. Galling for Sergio. But that result for McLaren, the fifth and sixth places for them netted them 18 points. They started the day 10 points behind Racing Point, but those 18 points and the single point for Lance Stroll means McLaren third in the Constructors.
Yeah, and there is obviously that investigation going on with Carlos about driving unnecessarily slowly in pit lane, but I can't imagine that the penalty will be so severe that it's going to swing it back to Racing Point.
No, we'll be discussing that later on in the show. Sam Collins, from really early on in the race, was looking over the replays on that and really picking out basically what the stewards are going to be looking at right now. Sam's been able to figure it out, and why they couldn't at the time is anyone's guess. But we'll be talking about that in a moment's time. It does, though, give that third place to McLaren at the end of what's been a really strong season for them.
Yeah, and they've come on even stronger towards the end of the year, haven't they? You know, there was all the controversy at the start of the year around the Racing Point car and it being a copy of the Mercedes or not. And they've really bounced back from a slightly less strong start to the year in pre-season testing, a few niggles, and they've really executed two excellent drivers, of course, as well, helping them. Yeah,
absolutely. Lance Stroll, a bit of an off day for him today, ultimately finishing down in 10th. So even if Sainz was to get something of a penalty, you get a 20-second penalty in lieu of a drive-through penalty, a stop-go penalty, but with 30 seconds. Even with that, he'd still finish ahead of Stroll, so it was really not going to make much of a difference. Let's hear, though, from a guy who took your seat. How dare he?
Gosh darn it.
George Russell, on his final race of the year for Williams.
Hiya, George.
Hi, Lawrence.
Different car, obviously, this weekend into last weekend. How was that race versus last weekend, really, I guess?
You know, when I looked in my mirrors with 5 laps remaining, it felt pretty similar to last week, because I had, you know, they said on radio, Valtteri's behind, but this time he was laughing at me, so it was, you know, a little bit different, but nevertheless, you know, we made the most of it. You know, I look back on this season with a lot of pride with the step we've made forward as a team. When you look back on last year, we were so far behind. We're still far from where we want to be. And me personally as a driver, you know, ups and downs, a lot to be proud of, a lot to be, you know, learned from. Imola, you know, proper rookie error, and obviously last week in Bahrain, the great opportunity I had with Mercedes, and you know, it's been an emotional and intense season on and off the circuit. So some well-earned rest for probably all of the drivers and all, you know, every single person in the paddock, including all of you guys behind the camera.
Imola still seems like it's paining you, but when you look overall at the season, it feels like you've just come on leaps and bounds from last year.
Yeah, absolutely. As a team, as a driver, you know, I've been trying to push myself week in, week out to improve, because I know, you know, in the future I want to be fighting for victories, and if I'm battling with Lewis, Max, Charles, you know, those guys are assessing the level at the moment, Danny Rick as well. You know, I need to keep pushing myself, and I was so grateful to get the chance last week to sort of see where I was against somebody who's obviously pushed Lewis quite a lot over the years.
Great stuff. George, have a good winter. Thanks.
Lewis, Max and Charles. Unintentional slice of shade from George Russell to Valtteri Bottas. You are a part of the Williams team. You've seen the steps, the development they've made throughout this season. How different a team is it now to that which it was at the start of the year?
I think they've come on a huge amount of... there's been a huge amount of progress since last year, mainly in terms of the car. There's been restructuring in terms of the way the team works back in Grove. But ultimately, I think the personnel have always been excellent, and that was something that was said to me when I made the move to join the team at the start of the year. Everyone up and down the pit lane said, "You'll love it there. The people are excellent. They're really great at their job," and I found that absolutely to be the case. So it's actually just quite a relief to see that progress coming through and getting to more of a place where they deserve to be. To be honest.
Absolutely. Now, of course, Racing Point this year had a tricky season, as you've already said, with the difficulties they had with the car, with the design, with the controversies all around that. They were in the fight for P3 right till the last. It was on Lance Stroll's shoulder, on his back today. He had to carry the team. He had to carry the team. Ultimately, though, he didn't have enough in him. He finished lower than he started. Even if McLaren get a penalty today, it won't be enough. Racing Point will finish 4th in the Constructors' Championship standings, Lance Stroll having finished 10th in the race.
Hey Lance, it looked like a tough afternoon out there, culminating with a good little battle with your mate Esteban at the end.
Yeah, I don't know, our tyres died at the end, so I need to look at why.
Were you quite surprised by the lack of pace generally
Yeah,
today?
I am. We had good pace at some stages of the race, but it never lasted.
All right, well, hard luck. Thank you.
There you go. We've got a guest, and that guest made his official start to your Formula One career on Friday. Mick Schumacher, welcome to the show. Welcome to Formula One, we can now say, officially a driver for 2021 and Formula 2 champion. What a crazy few weeks it's been.
Yeah, it has. Thank you, and now happy to be here.
And how was it getting out there for Haas, getting into the car, around a track that you've driven at before, of course, but starting to get involved with the team?
No, it's been great, obviously, to also see how it has been this whole weekend. You know, obviously not easy. It's been a tough weekend, but nevertheless, great for me to, you know, gain that experience, get to know the team even more than I already do.
And you get to jump straight back in again in the young driver tests this week. How much are you looking forward to properly getting down to work with the team and starting your objectives for 2021?
It's obviously what I'm here for, and I want to drive, and I'm happy that I get the opportunity again and get to, you know, just get that experience, get those laps in, and really try and prepare as well as I can for next year.
Good stuff. Well, hopefully you'll be featuring on the show often next year after some brilliant results in Formula One. We can't wait to see you race. Have a wonderful winter. Congratulations on your season in Formula 2. Enjoy the young driver test, man, and we'll see you next year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mick. Thanks for coming
Thank
on.
you.
You get to share a track with him. You're doing the young driver test this week as well.
Indeed, yeah. It's and probably we'll be seeing plenty of each other, I think. So no, he's had an excellent year, hasn't he? I've been racing against him in F2 this year, and together with Prema, they've been quite a force, not just in terms of pace, but in his consistency. And I think the maturity that he's shown on track most of the time has been really impressive.
Yeah, it really sort of started to come together for him in the mid part of the season. Both you and he having to adapt to the 18-inch tyres, which Formula One, of course, will move to in the future. How did you find that transition to 18-inch tyres?
Tough, yeah. I think for all of us it was a challenge because we only had the one pre-season test, which feels like ages ago now. And you know, they bring with them a lot of challenges in terms of the warm-up. The setup of the car has to be quite different, and with the limited amount of running, you have to be very quick to adapt, and that's the theme of F2 really.
Absolutely. Right, let's look more at the race as it occurred today. Of course, Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, your top three. Behind, though, let's talk about that race for Norris and Sainz. They had to maximise every single opportunity they had. They started 4th and 6th. They finished 5th and 6th. And I don't think they could have done much more today.
No, I think, the way they started the race, Lando did a really good job of holding up Alex as long as he could. And after that, they just ran their race. They did a really good job on slightly different strategies, obviously, but neither of them made any big mistakes. It was exactly what McLaren needed today.
Yeah, it was. And obviously, Sergio Perez retiring from the race brought out the safety car. He was stopped just over there by the hotel. And that turned everything on its head. What had looked like two-stop strategies suddenly became a one-stop strategy. The majority of people piling in, apart from, bizarrely, Ferrari.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the logic behind leaving Charles out was, but it obviously bit them quite badly. Seeing here that the Verstappen pit stop is one and only. All of the leaders coming in at the same time, effectively neutralising the race a bit, didn't it?
It did. It did. Interestingly, Ricciardo didn't come in either. Stayed out for a long time. Pitted towards the end of the race, hoping to go for a really quick final stint on the medium, but actually started to drop back when he came out.
Yeah, I think a lot of the teams are struggling with surface overheating, especially with the softer compounds. So maybe they just pushed it a little bit too hard, and he wasn't able to extract that extra pace. But yeah, not a day for strategy variation across the grid. No. Would have been nice if there had been. But no, quite frustrating in that regard. Anyway, we've got another tame racing driver, Pietro Fittipaldi. Welcome back on the show, my man. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I came into this weekend a lot more confident, a lot more prepared than my first weekend. And I was happy with how qualifying went yesterday. It wasn't ideal, the second and third one, but it was like that. And in the race today, I mean, we had a good pace within our limits, I saved my tires a bit in the beginning, then we were able to attack. I overtook Kevin. I was catching the Williams of, I think it was Latifi, and it was looking good. We had a good pace, and we started attacking at the right point. Unfortunately, we had, I think, an overheating issue in the engine, and we had to do an extra stop. So that killed our race, unfortunately. But just to be there fighting in the mix with the guys, Kevin's a great reference, and he's been very supportive throughout the whole weekend. And to be fighting there, overtaking him and fighting with some of the Williams cars, it was really good. I'm happy with what we showed, and unfortunate with what happened with the engine, but it's out of our control. So
I've got to say, delighted to see you actually in a race suit rather than standing at the desk. I'm delighted that both you and Jack actually got to race this year, of course, because that's where we want to see you. What are the plans for next year? How have these two races helped put you back out there, put you back on the map? What are you looking at for next season? Yeah,
it was extremely important for me, these two races, as I'm sure it was for Jack. But to get an opportunity in Formula One and to be hired by a team, I'm very grateful for Gene and for Gunther for the opportunity. It's very different than having to pay for a ride. To be hired in a Formula One seat, it's an unbelievable opportunity. It's very difficult nowadays to get that. For sure, it's going to open doors next year. I'd like to keep a foot in Formula One, but I have to prioritize also my racing plans. IndyCar would be ideal for me. It would be perfect, but we're still working on it. So I hope we can have some news soon.
Well, it'd be great to see you racing, man, but we need you on this show as well, so don't.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna be back next year. Maybe we can do two co-hosts and you.
Hopefully so, when there's no social distancing. Thank you so much, mate, for coming on. Appreciate it, Pietro.
Good job, buddy.
Take care, buddy. Now for this guy.
Hello.
Wow. On the alternate strategy, a different afternoon, a very different race, man. Looked like a hard one, though.
Yeah, it was a hard one for 40 laps or something with the hard. But no, the tyre worked great. When the safety car came out, I wasn't sure if that helped or hindered, but I was able to hold off. I think Lando, the first couple laps, obviously had a bit more pace, but then kind of got into the rhythm, and yeah, we pulled a nice gap on, I think, P7 and managed to get a free pit stop nearly. We just lost two positions, and yeah, it was a strong race. Nice way to end the Renault campaign.
Absolutely, and the team that you're moving to next season managed to get third place in the Constructors. Quite a bit more money for them, which obviously will benefit you.
Yeah, I saw the drivers celebrating at the end, so I put two and two together. It's nice to walk into that environment. They're on a high. I think last year they already made such a big step, and I think to capture third is strong for them. So yeah, I'll walk into that probably middle of January or something. But for now, I just want a week, maybe two, on the sofa. I think the most physical thing I'll do is have a shower.
Sounds like a damn good idea. Thanks for coming on the show, mate. Enjoy the break. Enjoy Christmas.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you next year. And this guy, Kevin, your last race in Formula One, we knew it was going to be a tricky one, but did you enjoy it? The first laps looked like a thrill ride.
Yeah, I mean, just gotta, do what you can and try and enjoy it. It's I started from last position, so I thought I'll try. Hope there is a gap. I tried to go up the inside, but that didn't really open a gap. Sometimes people lock up and go wide, but it didn't happen. So anyway, it was good to drive the car for one last time at least, even though we were pretty uncompetitive.
What are your emotions at the end of this long weekend? It's been a really emotional few weeks for you guys down at Haas with everything that went down in Bahrain, but for you now, bringing your Formula One chapter to a close.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange. It's Formula One has been my life since I was a little kid in a way. Even I've only been in Formula One for 7 years, but I've been dreaming about Formula One since I was a young child, and it's kind of a chapter closed. Like I'm closing the chapter to my childhood and moving on. That's a strange feeling, but at the same time, I'm really excited about what I'm gonna do now. It's been a couple of tough years, not really fighting for anything, and I miss winning so much. It's unbelievable. It's great to think about that I'll be in a winning position next year, that I can think about the championship and I can think about pole positions and stuff like that, which I've really missed the last few years.
And you're straight in, aren't you? Daytona is January or February?
Yeah, absolutely. End of January we'll be racing 24 Daytona.
Amazing. Cannot wait to watch you in IMSA, man. Best of luck. I know you'll do Chip Ganassi proud. It's been such a joy watching you race, man. I've loved every second of it. Always with your elbows out, always exciting. It's been great, man. Really enjoyed it. You take care and have fun in the States. He's been such an exciting racer to watch.
Yeah, and I think, despite the persona that he might put across sometimes with his robust defending on occasion, I think he's a really nice guy as well. And it's a real shame to lose him from the paddock. He is absolutely talented enough to be here, but we all know that's not the only requirement now. So hopefully he has a really fruitful career in America and moving forwards. I'm sure we'll see him around. Absolutely.
Going to race for Chip Ganassi in IMSA, the potential there, hopefully. I'd love to see him. It's a huge name. And to him to have the potential to maybe do some IndyCar races with Chip would be amazing. He's got a hell of a lineup there. I think he's lining up alongside Scott Dixon as well, which is just massive, absolutely massive.
I think that would really suit him, actually, IndyCar.
Wouldn't it? Hustler, get his elbows out. One guy who, as of right now, does not know what his future holds, does not know whether he'll be in Formula One next season or where he'll be racing indeed next season, is Daniil Kvyat. Great quali, couldn't quite get into the points though in what may be his last Formula One race.
Hiya Danny, so close to points once again. I think we've had a few conversations this year when you've come pretty close, just didn't have enough speed today.
Yeah, very frustrating race, I'd say, as the season. So, yeah, we expected a real limited race, but it ended up being a front limited race in the front tires, and it caught us by surprise in the first stint. I was a sitting duck with the understeer, and a few cars drove by just before the safety car, and I lost a few positions to the key cars, and that was about it, really. Just very frustrating race. The pace was more or less there, but just slightly on the back foot all the time, and as a result, that's P11.
You've had a really strong few races to end the year. How are you feeling about your chances of being here next year?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know. I'm not thinking about I don't know. I don't really care right now. I'm just thinking about this race. It was quite frustrating. It's a shame because I wanted to finish on a high. We got something wrong for the first stint, and it put us on a back foot for the rest of the race. So slightly frustrating. Train like this, not a hugely bad race, but just not where we should have been.
Right. Danny, thank you.
Thank you.
Really feel for Daniil Kvyat. Tough race to finish what may be his Formula One career.
Yeah, and you could clearly see in the interview there he's frustrated. It's not the way that he wants to end his year and potentially his last race, as we've said. It doesn't sound like he's hugely optimistic there from what I could see, but we'll find out, I think, in the next couple of weeks.
Let's certainly hope so. You've turned up at just the right time.
I'm here.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Perfect. Checo, it wasn't the finale to your career with Racing Point that you wanted, that anybody wanted to see. Must be heartbreaking, man.
Yeah, it was really, for my boys. Some of them were crying there at the end because, it's our last time together. And it's a big shame, what happened today. I just look forward to them, I want to wish them the very best. They deserve no less than that. And I'm extremely pleased with them. The future is bright for them. And I think with myself, I'm in peace, because I had a tremendous year from my side. And also well done to McLaren. I think they've delivered when it mattered. And it shows the importance of having two very strong drivers in your team.
Yeah, it really does. For you, leaving the team, I know you wanted P3 so desperately, but you must be very proud of how you've handled yourself, how you've raced this year, and that you took the team so close.
Yeah, I'm very pleased. I would have liked to leave the team in third place in the constructors, but never mind. I look forward to them. I'm sure they have a bright future ahead of them, and we'll see what happens next.
What does happen next? Can you tell us anything?
Well,
just between us. No one else has to know. You can just tell me down the microphone.
So that's a secret.
Okay.
I don't know what really will happen. What I know is that I'm heading home, and I'm looking forward to be with my family. It's been such a long year, very intense with so many restrictions. We lived in the bubble so many times, getting caught the COVID. It was a tough season mentally. Now I look forward to spend good time with my family, and whatever happens next, I'm well prepared for anything.
Well, enjoy. Take the time at home with the family. I know you'll enjoy that. Have a really happy Christmas. Whatever happens next, whether you're sitting at home next year, I can't imagine you will be. It just seems unbelievable that you will be. But if you are, enjoy that. If not, we'll see you in Australia.
Thank you so much. Cheers, mate.
Thanks so much, man. I cannot believe that he might be out of Formula One next year. It makes no sense to me.
I think he's what we call in the industry a catch.
Yes.
And that's it's amazing because he brings decent funding as well, which is extremely unusual for a driver of his caliber and experience. And it's bizarre, but that's the way the musical chairs have worked out, isn't it?
He really is a prodigious talent, and I think he's had probably his best year in Formula One when you consider he missed 2 races through COVID, still came back, accumulated enough points to help take the team to the cusp of 3rd place, to fight for 4th place in the Drivers' Championship as well. It's been an outstanding year.
Yeah, holding on to 4th in the Drivers' Championship for me it's got to be a highlight for him. That's super impressive. The fight in the midfield has been so intense, missing those races because of COVID, going up against people like Danny Rick, who finished just behind him. That's an amazing job that he's done there.
Yeah, it is, and particularly with the ebb and flow of the season, he came back and he admitted he wasn't as up to temperature as he needed to be. He wasn't as healthy as he needs to be. Actually, you know what? We'll stop talking about that. We'll start talking about this guy, Lando Norris. Great race, man, and P3 in the constructors. What a brilliant day for McLaren.
Thank you. Yeah, it was perfect. We couldn't have asked for a better day. Both for ourselves, P5 and P6, I think was all we could achieve today, and all we could have done no matter the circumstances. No matter if Racing Point was still 7th and 8th or anything, and they got the points they needed. We just did the best job we could, and as a bonus, we got P3 in the constructors. So I'm super happy. I'm super happy for the team. They've worked so hard, and there's been a lot of rough moments this year. Times when we've really struggled and we've been quite slow and been unlucky. But as we saw today, everyone can be unlucky sometimes, and Sergio was today. But yeah, just very proud of my team, all their hard work, and everyone back in MTC as well. So a big thanks to them.
I know for the last couple of races you guys have been saying we're not thinking about 3rd. It would be nice, but it's just a number. We're really pleased with the progressions and the progress we've made. Now that you've got it, what does it mean?
I mean, it means a huge amount. Probably not as much to me as it maybe means for the team and the bank account, but I think the motivation and the determination everyone showed from the mechanics, the engineers, and everyone back in MTC, it's nice to be rewarded. And of course, P4 would have still been a good reward for everyone. But I think that next little step that we took this year just means a little bit more and gives us the extra bit of motivation going into 2021 to take that next step and try and fight Red Bull and just be a little bit more competitive.
I'm going to let you go because I won't be able to hear what you're saying anyway.
Cheers.
I'll let you go. Thanks, Lando. I could ask you a question. Can you hear me from there?
I can hear you.
Great stuff. What a standout year from Lando Norris.
Yeah, absolutely. I said before what a strong driver pairing that those guys made at McLaren, and I think they've pushed each other on to new heights, and they've been incredibly consistent. Very few mistakes from either of them over the whole year, and it was another really good race from Lando today. So I think McLaren have got another strong lineup going into next year.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing McLaren into next year. As you said, Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris as a team, chucking a Mercedes lump in the back of that car as well. Looking at how that car was at the end of the season, it's mind-boggling what McLaren can achieve next year.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think it'll be interesting to see if the trend continues with the field bunching up, because that could really start to bring them into play with Red Bull even.
Now, there was a moment, and it's still being debated and discussed by the stewards, and it was with those pit stops, McLaren seemingly, intentionally or otherwise, doing something a little bit naughty. Rosanna, Sam, I know that you guys have been looking at this from the moment that it happened. What happened? How did it happen? And what should have been the result?
Yeah, Will, Lando Norris saying that the team had a perfect day. Well, in terms of teamwork, yeah, probably pretty perfect. But let's go to the pit lane because, Sam, it is still under investigation, but what was Carlos Sainz up to as he came into the pit lane?
Well, just to give a little bit of an introduction, this is something we've seen before at the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, with one of the McLarens slowing down too much in the pit lane to try and slow down another car to let the other team car, the other McLaren car, catch up to it and get an advantage in the pit stops. This happened under the safety car. So we're on board with Carlos Sainz, and he comes in to the pit lane. Now look behind him, you can see the Racing Point coming up. That's Lance Stroll coming up behind him. Just think about that champion battle. Here at this point, Sainz slows down to get to the pit lane line. Looks all normal, except he slowed down by 7 kph more than he needed to, backing up Lance Stroll significantly. Why would he do that? Comes into the pits, he's backed up Lance Stroll further back down the field, and you'll see it shortly. Lando Norris is on his way in the pits as well. So Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz, he's trying to back him up, slow down his championship rival, cost him points, and look, you'll see the Racing Point coming out and nearly goes into the side of Carlos Sainz. It's an unsafe release. Could he have hit him with another penalty? That's a little bit naughty, because if you're backing up your championship rival on purpose to cost them pit stop time and cost them championship positions, that will cause you a problem. Now, have a look to see what happens when you ride on board from Lance Stroll's point of view. He's coming along, and you can see Carlos Sainz will come screaming back towards him here.
How rare is that, Sam, for a car to drop that much more speed? Does that happen often?
No, you don't do that on purpose. 7 kph is a huge amount. So he's dropped back in, and look, Carlos Sainz has come into the pit box for McLaren. Stroll's there doing a normal pit stop. He thought, why has he gone so slowly? Comes back out, and then look on the left. Oh, there's that McLaren again. That's some really good tactical team play. It's not really legal, though. And as we said, they tried it in Monza. And if the FIA take a dim view of that, because that is it's in terms of sporting, it could be a little bit dodgy. And I think you could lose a lot of points. If you got disqualified, for example, Will thinks it's going to be a 20-second penalty.
Do you agree?
Not sure. It could be a disqualification. If you have a look what a disqualification would mean for McLaren, we've just talked about that result with Lando Norris. Have a look, disqualification. He got 8 points, Carlos Sainz, from that. Look at the gap between McLaren and Racing Point. Well, won't make the big difference. Well, it could make that big difference that you need. So it's on that knife edge, and Racing Point could be jumping up and down asking for a McLaren to be disqualified. That could change the result. So it's really important to keep an eye on this situation.
And you say they might take a dim view because there's previous with this. I guess that forces the stewards a little bit to say, hang on, you've done it before. It wasn't just because in the heat of the moment with the championship at stake and the last race of the year, because it's happened before, that could really mean the stewards take a worse sort of viewpoint this time.
Precisely that, Rosanna, because this isn't their first offence. They've been in front of their headmaster already. He's told them not to do it again. They've done it again. Now, the FIA are going to sit there, they're going to look at the data from McLaren. They've got the same data I have down in the control building here. 7 kph difference, and you compare him to Lando Norris, who was at the normal speed, and everybody else. That's a deliberate move, in my opinion. He's going to have to make a hell of a good argument to say why he was 7 kph slower. I think there's going to be a penalty on the way for McLaren. The question is, how severe is that penalty going to be? Because that could change a lot.
Well, Will and Jack, interesting. Whether would it have been Carlos making the decision to slow it down there? Might there be some team radio that we can find if we go through all the clips to see that McLaren were telling Carlos to do that? Jack, how would you have approached that?
So as you say, it's definitely a tactic that's been used before and one that's been penalised before. When I saw the onboard, it looks pretty, you can see he's doing it, but it's pretty marginal. He's just slowing it down a little bit too much as he's braking for the pit lane speed limiter line, and then he brings it back up to 80 kph on his dash. And then he also slows down a little bit early going into his box. So he's definitely going a little bit slower than he perhaps could, but he's also not driving at 70 when the pit lane speed limit is 80. He was at the limit, so for sure they're going to be fighting it super hard in the stewards room. But
and as the guys were saying, Racing Point are going to be hopping mad and trying to get them, the harshest penalty that they can. For you, is it worthy of a disqualification?
No. I would be really, really shocked if that ended up in a DQ. It could be a serious penalty because it is on the grounds of safety, and matters of safety are always taken far more seriously than just a sporting issue. But I'd be surprised if that was a DQ, really surprised.
This is it. If it was a time penalty, it'll start to drop them back. A time penalty, 20 seconds if it would be a drive-through, 30 if it would be a stop-go. But anything more than that, it changes everything. And, of course, would change third in the Constructors. A lot of money involved with that, so whatever decision is taken has to be taken for all the right reasons, which I guess is why they've left it until afterwards, so everybody gets their chance to argue. Let's go now to Sebastian Vettel, who didn't have the race that he wanted to have with Ferrari, his final race with Ferrari. I think a disappointing one for the German. Let's hear from him now.
Thanks for waiting, Sebastian. I know it's not been the greatest of years and this wasn't the greatest of races, but how do you look back on it?
Well, I mean, this race I certainly won't remember, but what I will remember is the gestures of all the guys, the mechanics and so on. I think it's been a different energy today, which I felt, and I will remember. The race, I think nothing special to mention about.
Charles was just saying some very nice things about you. You're going to miss him?
Well, he's still around, so I think I will miss him. Obviously, he was giving me a headache here and there, and I think we have very different stages of our lives and careers, but certainly, it was. He's a good kid, and I think he will go a long way. He will be the man of the future. So I hope that he gets the car that he deserves.
Great stuff. Have a good winter. I'll see you in green.
Leclerc and Vettel, P13 and P14 at the flag. Not a happy day for Ferrari. Let's move to a guy who has had a happy day, who's had a brilliant year, one of the highest performing drivers all the way through the season, Pierre Gasly, who had a brilliant race here in Abu Dhabi.
Pierre, it's great that you're finishing the season with a couple of points after a year that you've been really strong.
Yeah, I must say I'm super happy about today. It's been a difficult weekend all in all, and I haven't really managed to put the car where I wanted. But today was the last one. I just wanted to really enjoy it one last time for this year. I had so much fun battling out on track, a lot of action, overtakings, and I had to be smart with the tires and really make the move when it counted, and we managed to do it. So I'm really pleased for the team. They have worked really hard, and they deserve to finish with such a result before to go on holidays.
You were really racy, like you said today. Some really great overtakes. Does this just bode well for next year, do you think?
Yeah, it's actually funny. It's stuff we practiced last year in testing. So there are a couple of things I wanted, particularly for this track, to practice. And I had the chance to really put it on track now in the real racing, and it helped us today to pass. So especially with the braking, etc. But I had a great battle with Charles, Seb, Esteban, Lance, Danny as well. So that was just just a lot of fun, and as it should be. So really happy.
Great stuff.
As Pierre Gasly says, he had a great battle with the Renaults, with Esteban Ocon and with Daniel Ricciardo. And Daniel Ricciardo's strategy, unlike that of the Ferraris, pitting very late, actually worked out well for him. Rosanna, Sam, I know that Daniel's strategy in particular was one of the things that caught your guys' attention during today's race.
Yeah, definitely will. You may have heard on the radio Carol, Daniel Ricciardo's race engineer, saying, how are you getting on kind of thing. Do you want to go plan A, plan C? And Daniel was pretty kind of chilled about things and then said, but I think I prefer plan A. What did you make of plan A? Did they get it right or wrong, Sam?
I'd like to start at the beginning, actually, on this one,
Let's,
because this is the beginning of the race. So there's Daniel Ricciardo setting off, and he starts the race on the hard tyre, and that's really important because we talked about in the pre-race show that if you're starting on the hard tyre, you can go super deep into the race, try and pick up track position, come out later in the race, switch to the mediums, and go to the end. That was a decent strategy, and when the safety car came out, everybody else abandoned that strategy and tried to go to an early one stop. Ricciardo and the Renault team looked at that situation, thought, you know what, let's ignore those guys pitting, let's overtake them all behind the safety car, which they did, move right up the field and keep going. The Renault worked really, really well on these hard tyres, but when he came in to change for the medium tyres halfway through the race, or late towards the race, 15 laps to go, he came out and it looked like he'd played a masterstroke. All the cars in front of him were suffering with really severe tyre degradation at that point. We heard Max Verstappen talking about it. We heard Lewis Hamilton talking about it. It looked like a lot of those cars were going to have to come back to pit road, put on a set of softs and finish the race that way. Ricciardo was looking really good. He looked like a podium or even better at that point. But those medium tyres, they may match the Renault paint scheme, but they just didn't work for him.
So was plan C then the softs, do you think?
I think so. So you heard on the radio that message, you know, do you want to go plan A or plan C? Plan A being the medium tyre, what they planned for at the beginning, or to go to the soft with 15 laps to go. They thought that was a bit too much of a gamble. Go for the mediums, go to the end. That's a sensible choice. If they'd gone for the softs, would the softs have lasted? I'm not sure. They could have done, and I think possibly down at Renault there's a little bit of regret they didn't go for the softs, but there's probably even more regret the safety car stayed out as long as it did, because then they could have got more tyre deg from the guys in front and got that track position. It would have been a masterstroke had it worked, but it didn't, and that meant they're back in 5th in the Constructors' Championship.
But they had to try something. That midfield battle so tight, of course, it's all now come to fruition. We now know where everyone's ended up, or maybe that might change if the investigation goes against McLaren this evening. But yes, a little snapshot into Daniel Ricciardo and the Renault's strategy this evening.
Don't say that, Rosanna. It's late enough here as it is, honestly. Shall we have a look at the top 3? Shall we hear from them? Let's do that. A guy who a week ago was in his hotel bed, not feeling very well with COVID-19, has recovered, is back and is on the podium. It's your 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton, in 3rd.
Firstly, just really great to see you back. Fair play for doing this weekend.
Thank you.
How challenging was it out there in the car for you today? How challenging or how tough was it in the car?
That was for me one of the most... That was probably the most physically challenging race I think I've probably had. I think there was one I had in 2007, probably in Malaysia, where I lost like nearly 5 kilos. But this one was different. I started with a lot less energy, you know, so it was really, really tough. I'm really glad I'm glad when I saw the flag. I'm grateful to have been able to deliver at least a podium for the team, and just solidify that continuation and the consistency we've had all year. And big congrats to Max.
Are you excited by the winter now, because it's been a tough old year and a year that you've impressed so much?
I definitely am. I'm so excited just to be off and to recuperate, to try and re-energize and get my body back to where it was, particularly at the beginning of this year. So a lot of hard work up ahead. I'm going to maximize in terms of really utilizing the time that I have to try and continue to stay safe and focused.
Have a good winter, Lewis. See you next year.
See you next year.
So that was Lewis Hamilton in P3, and clearly still feeling the after effects of that COVID-19 diagnosis. But great to see him back in the car and back on the podium. What about his teammate, though? Valtteri Bottas wanted to finish this season with a win. 2nd place will have to do.
Valtteri's been a tough couple of races, but back to another strong one for you today.
Yeah, I think for me personally it was like a really solid race. Start was good. Obviously it's really short run into turn 1, so couldn't do much. And with the safety car, quite early on, it meant strategy was same for everyone. So yeah, not many opportunities, and Red Bull was too quick today. But personally, I feel it was a strong race, but as a team, we were not quick enough.
Were you surprised that that's the way it turned out, that you guys were slightly slower than Red Bull?
Yeah, surprising. Yeah, they were surprisingly good. Even Alex was really close to Lewis at the end. So yeah, I mean, we just didn't have pace. I don't know. I'm sure we will look at everything and learn from it, and maybe it's a bit of a wake-up call for us that nothing comes easy in this sport, and we have to keep pushing over the winter.
Didn't quite work out for you on the title side of things, but you're finishing the season strongly at least. Does that give you positivity going into the winter?
Yeah, I think this weekend it was positive, you know, from my own performance-wise, and yeah, also being able to beat Lewis is always a good thing to remind that I can do it. So yeah, I'm ready to get some rest and a good reset and try again.
Great stuff. Have a good one. See you next year.
Thank you. See you.
So not the win that Bottas wanted, but the win that Verstappen wanted. He wanted 5 for the season. He's going to have to make do with 2.
Max, what a race.
Yeah, it was very satisfying out there. The car was working well, but it wasn't easy to have such a long stint on that last tyre set, but we managed that, and yeah, never really had any pressure from behind, so I could just concentrate on my own laps, and yeah, that was very nice.
Abu Dhabi traditionally is a Mercedes stronghold, so the fact that you guys have beaten them qualifying and the race gives you hope for next year?
Well, I just hope that we can start more competitive next year, and for the team this is a great boost going into the winter, that's for sure. But yeah, for the moment I think it's good to have a little rest, a little bit of a holiday, and then hopefully just start very strong next year.
Great stuff. Have a good one. See you next year.
What a year it has been. A year in which we've seen so much action on track. A year in which we've seen, well, really, sort of the amount of action we'd normally see in a decade. Things that we will remember for a lifetime. Rosanna and Sam, it's been a long year, been an intense year. What have been your highlights of this 2020 F1 season?
There's been so much to choose from. To think back to March when we thought we might not even get a Formula One season, to be standing here mid-December and to have so many highlights, making it difficult to make a selection. Sam, what's been one of your highlights this year?
Well,
I can't believe we've got a brake duct on the screen.
It's pretty predictable with me, but I'll tell you why. I remember I was stood in a field near my house on a sunny day in about April or May, and I got the call saying there's going to be a Formula One season at all. So I think the real achievement, my real high point, is that Formula One and FOM and the FIA have managed to create a Formula One season. It's been fantastic. But my real highlight, the racing highlight, has actually goes back to pre-season testing. And it is predictably not an actual on-track moment. It's very much an off-track moment. It is the Racing Point brake duct, where Racing Point, with this year's car, we spotted it in winter testing, that they essentially walked out, took a few photos of this year's Mercedes, and last year's Mercedes, copied it, and that was the 2020 Racing Point. It was almost a pink Mercedes. In fact, that's what everybody online has been nicknaming it, quite rightly. And there was this big hoo-ha about it at Austria, and once the season got going, there were protests. I remember standing here talking about intellectual property, and it was all down to these, the rear brake ducts, which were essentially the brake ducts from last year's Mercedes, and that's not really allowed in the regulations. They got penalised for them. It has ultimately cost them third place in the Constructors' Championship after the fine and the points deduction that they got, and that's cost them €4 million or more. It's been a huge penalty for Racing Point, but it was so much fun talking to everybody at home and you about this situation all year long. I love a good technical debate.
2020, not the year of the copycat.
Yeah, but what was yours, Rosanna? Because, you know I like talking about the geeky bits, but you've got lots of highlights.
Yeah, you're going to say brake duct again in a second. No, for me, there's so many highlights, and I don't want to steal everyone in the teams who they've all got their own highlight. But for me, Daniel Kvyat in Imola on that race start after the safety car. Play the clip for me. There we go, Sam. Love this bit of teamwork. And he just made so many places up here. He was on an absolute drive of his life, and it is such a shame that we may not see Daniel Kvyat in F1 again. Pretty quick clip that, blinking you missed it, but he made 3 places up. Oh, we've got another clip, which is even more exciting. So if we just roll that one, yeah, him clearing, Lance Stroll, Alex Albon, Charles Leclerc, and round corners at Imola that you just don't predict overtakes to happen as well.
Well, none of us predicted Imola in the first place, but it was great to see it back on the calendar. But, I mean, that's a driver who really belongs in Formula One, isn't it?
Certainly, and it is a shame we're not going to see him, but I think it begs the question, should we have more Formula One teams on the grid in the future? And I don't know what you feel about like that, Will and Jack, but wouldn't it be great to have 11, 12 teams on the grid in the future?
I think it absolutely would. It would allow more young drivers a chance to shine. Alex, what was your... I just called you Alex. It's been a long year. Jack,
Alex Jakes, Jack Aitken, we're
It's so
basically the same
confusing.
person. I know. My top
Your
moment
highlight.
of the season, rather predictably, would have to be last weekend.
Of course.
Making my Formula One debut, probably because I they saw the work that I was doing here on the Twitter show, of
I'm
course.
sure.
But yeah, what a moment. I had to actually take a couple of days to actually digest everything because at the time I was so busy trying to make sure I was prepped and doing the right things and getting in the mindset that it almost passed me by. But luckily I've had a week now to soak it all in, and yeah, that was mega. So
Formula One driver, that's it. You can call yourself a Formula One driver.
kinda. Still working on it.
Forever you will be. One guy who has watched it all, who has been the excited and excitable guide for this entire season, is Alex Jakes, who we are going to miss massively when he moves on at the end of the year. But mate, I know it's been a great year that you have loved. What have your highlights been?
Well, hello, Will. I mean, what a time to turn up on the post-race show with minutes left
I know,
on
right?
the clock. My highlights, well, I've gone for 6 of the best of Formula One in 2020, and we start with the Red Bull mechanics. So Max Verstappen heading to the grid. Off he goes into the wall, out of the race, surely. And yet, his team brilliantly worked on the grid. And the reason I wanted to highlight this is because this is the commitment that the mechanics show week in and week out. They are constantly doing this within the 4 walls of the garage, and yet they're missing anniversaries, they're missing kids' birthdays, and they're showing that commitment up and down the pit lane all the time. That was an opportunity to see it on the grid. That's just how good they are. Next up, Kimi Raikkonen. There's always something from Kimi every single year, and this is what it felt like to us. This is Kimi Raikkonen's opening lap in the Portuguese Grand Prix. Goodbye to you, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, down the inside, going past people like they weren't there. It impressed us. It is one of the highlights of the season. What did he say? He said, I was surprised what everyone was doing. An incredible, memorable opening lap. Carlos Sainz just behind. He had managed to take the lead of the race early on. But this opening lap of the season from Kimi Raikkonen, something I will always remember. Pure, joyful driving at the start of the race. So that was very, very strong from Kimi. But you can't ignore the main man for Formula One in 2020, Lewis Hamilton. Now, here he is across the line to win title number 7. Was it a tame run across the line? No, it wasn't. It was a generational drive on tyres that were absolutely gone. What a way to seal your 7th title. Genuinely, absolutely extraordinary stuff from Lewis Hamilton. What a motorsport milestone. We might not ever see that ever again. And yet Hamilton is still in the lineup. We go to number 3. And it's Lewis Hamilton on 3 wheels at Silverstone. Unbelievable, this, Will, because at any point it could have come off the rim. His lap on 3 wheels faster than the Porsches were going around this circuit. And what a way to win your 7th British Grand Prix victory on the straight that now bears his name. That's my 3rd highlight of the year. To the top 2, though, motorsport always has a dark side. We found that out last year. It was really chastening. What we really needed to see this year was a driver get out of a big accident, and they don't get any bigger than this. Romain Grosjean, horrifying scenes. Moments that we couldn't believe when we saw them on replay, but it is not just an amazing image. The bravery of Dr. Ian Roberts, and the moment that Romain Grosjean knew, and it's an incredible thing to say about a sport, he knew he was going to live. So there you go. down to the final highlight of the year. And I'm in a privileged position because I see the drivers come up through, just like you did, Will, come up through the ladder. Pierre Gasly up the ladder, down the ladder, promoted, demoted. When the moment came, did he seize it? You bet he did. What a performance in Monza to take his maiden Grand Prix victory. And we thought, oh, we won't see anything else like that this year. It was a brilliant moment for a brilliant driver. And then it happened again. Can you believe it? Sergio Perez taking Racing Point to the top step. 2 astonishing Grand Prix, 2 first-time winners. And that is my highlight of the season, seeing Sergio Perez and Pierre Gasly win Grand Prix.
Brilliant stuff, mate. Absolutely incredible. They were beautiful moments and moments that you called absolutely incredibly. We are going to miss working with you, but we are going to enjoy very much listening to you, continuing to enjoy your commentary for many years to come. Alex has only been on the show once this year because we could only afford him the once. That's big time now. Mate, thank you so much, buddy. Enjoy, and we'll, when all of this COVID stuff's open, we'll get you a beer to celebrate.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Will. Thanks to the whole team here. I say the best team in television every year. I really mean it. I'm going to miss this place. Back to you, Will.
We'll miss you too, mate. Right, let's finish this show off with the standings at the end of the 2020 Formula One season. The drivers' standings then. Lewis Hamilton is, of course, the champion. Valtteri Bottas P2, Max Verstappen P3. Sergio Perez confirmed in 4th place in the Drivers' Championship with Daniel Ricciardo 5th. Carlos Sainz in 6th, unless the stewards have their say. Then Alex Albon 7th, Leclerc 8th, Norris 9th, and Pierre Gasly in 10th. Amazingly, Sainz 6th, Albon 7th on the same number of points. Stroll down in P11, Ocon in 12th, then Vettel and Kvyat. Hulkenberg, of course, the stand-in 15th, then Raikkonen and Giovinazzi, Russell, Grosjean, Magnussen, Latifi, not quite able to take his first Formula One point in 21st. In the Constructors' Championship, of course, it's Mercedes who are champions again. A phenomenal 7th. Red Bull Racing in 2nd. McLaren confirmed in 3rd. Racing Point in 4th. And look at that. Renault 5th. Ferrari 6th. AlphaTauri 7th. Then Alfa Romeo, Haas and Williams. Well, that's pretty much that, Jack. Thank you for being on, mate. And we've got quite a few thank yous that we need to run through. And I never normally script anything because this is all, as you may have been able to tell, off the cuff. But I'm going to have to read this here because otherwise I'm going to forget some people and I really don't want to. Steve Nielsen, the event management team, for making this season and the impossible possible. Dean Locke and everyone on the broadcast team that have brought you the amazing action from around the world on a massively scaled back crew here on the ground and back at home in Biggin Hill. To the logistics, the travel teams that have looked after us around the world in the most trying of circumstances. The gang at Tata Communications for plugging us in to the World Wide Web, making stuff work. Very, very important. The health and safety gang for jabbing us in the face every 3 days for 6 months, but then crucially taking care of us when the jab up the nose came back and showed us that we had some nasty stuff in us. The rig team for making sure everything was in place when we turned up every single week at every single track. The fabulous camera guys, even you two. Big Ian for making sure the camera links all work. Wendy, Tom, Tony. Yeah, I'm going to thank you as well. The gang back at Biggin, of course, looking after the PLC, F1 TV, and this show. Our wonderful digital team who are sick of me by now, I'm sure. We travel the world with them. They are our second family, and I don't know how they deal with having to spend so much time with me, but they do. Thanks to Jack for joining me at the desk. Thanks to Pietro and to Sam Power and to Stoffel and to Alan Blimmin' Prost, who was a co-host at Silverstone, completely insane. And to Rosanna and Sam and everyone back at the studio. To the families of every member of this paddock who have put up with us being away for 18, 17 weeks in races in 23. Everyone. And Chase Carey, without whom this season would not have happened. Best of luck in the future, whatever you go on to do. But thank you for bringing us this season. And thank you, everyone, for watching this stuff that we do and this sport that we love. It has all been for you. For now, from us, it's been a hell of a year and we've loved it. And we will see you in 2021. See you later, guys.
Thank you for everything. We've got one more dance. I love this. Okay. Slowly down now.
What a great race.
Done it, Max. Won the race. What a way to close the season.
What a year, lads.